Yeah, I should be able to edit that, right?
Yeah, you should be. Okay,
Okay,
so
go ahead.
should be live. All right, we're back. Uh, we should be anyway. Let me check YouTube. Seems
I,
seems that we might be live.
and we are live, Carter. We are
Yes.
live. Okay, well, we had a little technical glitch, folks. Um, my OBS just kind of decided to quit on me. Maybe it's my web host getting back at me. Just a quick update that we have changed web hosting and we are rebuilding our beautiful website for everyone, and that will be online soon. In the meantime, we're here to talk to Carter about his D-Day module and, D-Day game, and maybe Chancellorsville if we get to it. But Carter, I wanted to ask, what inspired you to do a Monster D-Day campaign? And by the way, how many players are in it?
94 by my last count.
Oh gosh, God, that would make this probably the largest civilian Kriegsspiel that has ever been run ever in any medium. Just an FYI out there. All right, Carter, what's going on? What's the story behind this?
Yeah, so back in December, I discovered a massive library of digitally scanned maps dating back to World War II and just before that were scanned by the University of Texas. I believe it was the Perry Castaneda Library specifically. And you can find them all online if you search Perry Castaneda or U-Texas Library Army Map, U.S. Army Map Service. That's what you're looking for. You can find them. It's hundreds of maps of all different scales and sizes. And I was looking to do some World War II Kriegsspiels because the Society, Marshall, I know you had been working on a system. I knew some folks were really egging on trying to get a World War II Kriegsspiel system done. And when I discovered these maps, I decided, yes, okay, now is the time. We've got all sorts of different maps that we can use. Let's develop a system that we can use these maps with. And so what ended up happening is I messaged a couple guys who I knew were working on it. CT Mac being one of them, another guy in the Society. He already had a draft version of a somewhat simplified World War II system. Previously, the systems had been working on platoon level engagements, right, where you're moving squads or platoons around. And that opened up a whole can of worms, right, where you have to worry about penetration values of certain tanks going up against each other. And, okay, is this unit equipped with BARs, just M1s? Are the Germans equipped with Kar 98s and MG42s? Like, what is their equipment situation, right? When you get down to that level, there's so many factors that you have to worry about that it was just, whenever we try to run a test game, somebody would complain about how this or that thing was unrealistic because of XYZ. And so CT Mac and I, when I looked at his system was based on companies as the lowest denominator, right? Each block would be a company or a battery of artillery. And that takes away, by abstracting it to that level, it takes away a lot of those factors, right? Because a company on a company is generally pretty even in terms of firepower. And so that got a lot of the nitty-gritty problems away. And so we were able to focus on just it's a very free Kriegsspiel kind of format. We worked on the whole system is based on dice that already exist that you can buy at the store if you want to run it in real life, or that are already on TTS. We just use D6s, D8s, D10s, D12s, and D20s, right? And that's pretty much what we do. And you're just rolling to see which unit is performing better in the combat, and then you're moving them back and forth. And so then after we had gotten this system together, it was really Mac's system that I kind of gave a few suggestions to. So all credit goes to him. And so once we had this system, then we wanted to run a few test games, but we also wanted to get this big goal, right, to shoot towards and try to build up the World War II Kriegsspiel community here around that. And so literally weeks after we had gotten this system and started doing test games with it and saw that it worked, I announced this massive D-Day game as this goal to strive for. And then Chancellorsville was even before that. That was just I had run or was running Antietam, and I was like, this is fun, but we can't go any bigger than this, and it's already really hard when we're doing it live. How about I do one that's of similar size, slightly bigger, but play by post? And I was like, oh, what's an interesting battle? Chancellorsville. So that's how both of those came about.
So how much time do you put into this every week? That's a lot of that's a massive commitment, I've got to say.
Yeah, so the average resolution session is about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And we're running Chancellorsville, where we were. It's gotten a little bit hectic lately. But about 2 to 3 reports a week was the average. And so that's 6 hours a week. And this will be about the same. We've been doing some umpiring sessions of D-Day to resolve some pre-dawn stuff. And those are taking about 2 hours as well. Though, of course, we don't have all 94 people involved yet, so it might get longer. But we do have a significant umpiring team where we've got 4 different maps that we're working on for D-Day. This being one of them. This goes from Cherbourg in the northwest all the way over towards Omaha Beach with Vierville-sur-Mer. It's almost all the way to Bayou. So this is one of the 4, and then we've got another one. We've got another 3, basically, that cover the rest of the Cotentin Peninsula and the Normandy beaches, right? And we've got different teams of umpires working on each one, and we're coordinating our efforts to make sure that our reports come out pretty much at the same time. Maybe a few hours a day between when one set of people gets a report and the other, right? But that's kind of how we're working with, so that it's not like I'm doing all 94 people, right? It's a few different people doing different places.
Wow. So does this this is an incredible commitment. I can only imagine you probably what do you do in real life, Carter? I think you go to school, right?
Yeah, finished with that for the summer, though I just started a job. But, I'm home by 5 every day, so it's something to do in the evenings.
Nice.
Yeah.
You need to find a Kriegsspiel girlfriend who will help you resolve turns.
Yeah, exactly.
Baby, I got this hobby.
Yeah, we'll see how that works.
I bet they're out there. Actually, I think you would be surprised. We do have a few women who've joined the community in the past. None who've stuck around, but I do want people to know that this community is very welcoming and inviting, and a good, safe place for all people. And Carter is available, but you're going to have to play second fiddle to his first love, which appears to be Kriegsspiel. Carter, this is have you reached out to anyone? I mean, this is like kind of newsworthy in the game world, like this should be on some more podcasts besides just Coffee, Kegs, and Kriegsspiel. Have you let other people out there in the broader gaming community know that you're running these monsters?
No, it's pretty much I don't know of any other big gaming podcasts. Not because I don't think there are any. It's just because I don't go around in my free time looking for Kriegsspiel or war game podcasts because I'm too busy running this.
Right.
But if there are anyone from those podcasts listening, I'd be happy to talk with you. I can't talk too many details right now because Marshall's actually in the game.
Yeah, I'm actually a player.
Yeah, but I'd be happy to talk to other people way more in depth. In fact, I've got, since we're nudge, nudge, wink, wink, I've already run 3 of the reports for this. I've got save states to show you of the paratroopers. I wish I could show you all on the podcast right now, but it is really interesting. And I'm going to try, I've got some filmmaking experience. I'm going to see if I can make my after action report into kind of a documentary format. Should be interesting.
Yeah, I really do think you need to chronicle this and detail it because, it will be interesting. And the experience that you are going to glean from running such a massive umpire team and such a massive player base, the recruiting that you have to do, like building the modules, the easy part. Although it looks like you built hundreds of pieces for it, as I understand.
Yeah, even that was a multi-person job. I ended up building I can actually show you. So I built the 1st Infantry Division, 29th Infantry Division. If you're looking at the bottom of the map here, you can see where I've got all of the different pieces. Yeah, so if you go over to the far left, I personally made this division, the Rangers, the tanks under the core assets. I made the 4th Infantry Division over here to the right, the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions, the tanks for 7th Corps. I made the 2nd Armored Division, if we keep going over further to the right. I made the Canadians, I made the 3rd British Division, the 6th Airborne, the Commando Brigades, both of them. And then I had a couple people come in. I had Luz Theron, he may have changed his name, but he made the 2nd Infantry Division US and the 90th Infantry Division US. And then Tand made, I believe, he made the 50th Tyne Tees Division, the 49th West Riding Division, and the 51st Highlander Division, along with the 7th Armored, the Desert Rats.
Can you zoom in a little closer on some of these so folks can get a look at the pieces? Because they're beautiful. I love the Canadian pieces. Really pretty.
Yeah, they're all based on the actual uniform colors of the different units, right? So
zoom in all the way.
I can't quite, but that's what it looks like.
You might have to go vertical with your view, but it looks like you're vertical in YouTube. But okay. Everyone's saying zoom closer. They want to get a nice look at them.
I've just magnified it, so...
There you go. Oh, you know what? I'm on a 4K, so I can see a little better and closer, I think is what it is. I apologize.
Yeah, I'll show you some of the other unit templates here. Basically, the way it works...
Look at that.
...is you've got the brigade at the top, or if you're talking US, the regiment. We got the company at the bottom, the division insignia on the left side, and then the battalion on the right side. And so with the British, it was a little harder because the way they work is their regiments are ceremonial formations. And so they the regiments are just kind of like, that's what you get your battle honors from like 1700 from. But your actual fighting units are all brigades. And so you take battalions from different regiments and slap them together into a brigade. So if you look at, say, this 8th Brigade here, right? Its 1st Battalion is actually the 1st Battalion of the Suffolk Regiment. And then 2nd Battalion is from the East Yorkshire Regiment. And then you've got another 1st Battalion, which is confusing, but from the South Lancaster Regiment, right? So that was a little bit harder. But then you look at the U.S. and it's all nice and tidy, right? You know, you got, okay, look at the 4th Infantry Division, the Ivy boys, right? You've just got, you know, your regular 22nd Infantry Regiment, division insignia, company name, and then the battalions are all linear because the U.S. doesn't bother with the regiments as ceremonial things. So
yeah,
it's really interesting. I wish I could show you the Germans, Marshall, because the Germans were an adventure to make the pieces. I didn't make the German pieces. That was CT Mac. He made all of the German pieces. Why don't you spawn 1 or 2 blocks? Can you do that? Yes. Yeah.
Why don't you pick a couple blocks? While you're doing that, we got a couple questions here. One is Gray81 is saying he votes for Market Garden next.
Yeah.
And also suggests that you post on Board Game Geek and Consim World, which, yes, that will get you the exposure you deserve. And then he also says he has, or Justin says he has the maps and OOB for Market Garden.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch Justin's Market. Yeah, I was already talking with Justin about Market Garden. That's his baby, so I don't want to mess with that. He was like, Carter, I know that you like doing these, but don't touch Market Garden. I want to do that. And so
well, you know what though, he would benefit from your experience, and you should team up certainly. He is going to need a bunch of umpires for it. So I hope you folks can work together. All right, you got some German stuff up. I see it on the YouTube.
Yeah, so I'm just showing some of these German templates. The Germans were hard, not necessarily because of the template or making the actual pieces. It was the research. There's a lot more literature on the For those of you watching the stream, don't look, Marshall. But this is a nasty surprise for anyone who finds it. You know, but
I am not looking at the YouTube now.
You know, it was the same thing that we were worrying about with the platoon level system, but on a much larger scale, because the Germans basically rolled with anything they could get, right? They were looking for any kind of equipment. In fact, I believe when they invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, I think something like 30% of all of the trucks they were using, perhaps even a greater percentage, were French, right? They captured them. So we had to... Finding which units had what in terms of equipment was... Oh my gosh, it was terrible. At least so I'm told by CT Mac, who did a bunch of the digging for that. The Allies
that's amazing.
Were uniform, right? But this was, you know, we were trying to find, right? We actually did the research to look at which companies of tanks, right, from the Allies had the DD modifications, right? So if you look at 7th Corps' tanks, right, not all of them are DD Shermans, right? We actually found that from the 70th Tank Battalion, only Able and Baker Company were DD Shermans, right? So we went to that level of detail to try and discover what the individual capabilities of these units was.
How do those individual capabilities translate to combat value on the game in the game?
So pretty much all companies are created equal, but certain units aren't, right? So if you're, say, an airborne unit, you've gotten much higher training, right? Much better training than pretty much everyone else on the board. So that we reflect that in terms of dice. But also, if you're an airborne unit, you're light infantry. So if a tank column shows up, you're screwed. And so we take those factors into account. And with the DD Shermans, right? That means obviously you can land those Shermans as just, you know, a regular combat unit. You don't have to take away landing craft. You don't have to bring up landing craft tank or LC. Oh gosh, what am I thinking? LSTs, right? Landing ship tanks.
Right.
You don't have to bring those up, and that factors in, right? Because a landing craft tank or a landing ship tank is much bigger than just a tank and easier to hit, right? So that's how we factor those kinds of things in, and especially if we're looking at, I'll go over to the 243rd Infantry Division of the Germans, right? Look at that battery of anti-aircraft. That's 88s, right? That's 88 millimeter anti-aircraft guns. So those double as anti-tank guns as well. Whereas, you know, these PaK-40s can't double as AAA. So that's kind of how we're working with. And so, you know, there's also the difference between heavy, medium, and light tanks, right? That you have to factor in. And so that's kind of how that works. Does that answer your question, or...
Yeah, no, that's great. I can only imagine. I don't know if you do it by means of die roll modifier or if you interpret it by means of selecting a different die with different odds, which are a couple different ways. And actually, just like the K-22 system, you might blend them. You not only select the proper die, but you also add a DRM. I don't want to get under the hood of your system, though, because it's actually important that players, of which I am one, do not know how the system works, because you don't want players to try to game the system. So that's kind of important to keep the system secret, which is why people don't usually publish or share their rules, because they don't want to spoil the games with players who are over competitive, which players tend to be. You know, war gamers tend to be. Let's see. Gray81 asks, what does the black box represent? And I think he's referring to the black rectangles at the top of each piece.
So that is just a leftover from... It was Damon who actually created... These pieces were all basically taken from Damon's Civil War pieces, right? You can recognize these as the State 3 pieces from Damon's Civil War templates. And so the black boxes are pretty much just... there. We didn't have anything,
artifact.
Yeah, we didn't have anything to put there. In other systems, or more abstracted systems, say if we're trying to run something of an operational game, whereas this would be kind of grand tactical, I actually have used those black boxes to put unit designations, unit size, right? So the NATO markers to mark divisions, battalions, companies, right? I'll put those in there. For this, we haven't, but in future, I think I will put, the dots for platoons or X's for divisions or brigades, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we'll find a use for it.
John says, signed up for several games, nothing ever happens, still waiting for Sea Lion 3 months later. I don't think that Sea Lion is an official IKS game. I think that's being independently run by someone who's part of the club.
Yeah.
I don't know do we know who the umpire team is there?
Tand. Tand is one of the umpires for that. He's the lead there. He's part of the World War II community. Unfortunately, he has been very busy lately with exams. That's what he's told me. I'm part of that Sea Lion game as well.
Are you part of the umpire team?
I am not.
Or are you you're playing in it? Yeah. So the IKS, and we've talked about this at the admin level, just so folks know, we want master umpires to oversee or run official IKS events so that you know that you're getting a game that's going to move, that has a certain amount of quality. That doesn't mean that you can't get a great game from someone like Tand or someone else. Absolutely feel free to join whatever game you want, and if you want to run a game, go ahead and run a game. But yeah, the IKS seal of approval is kind of one of those hallmarks of quality that we are jealously trying to guard, just to make sure that when you see the IKS server, you know you're going to get a solid gaming experience, just like Carter is creating here. Carter, we got about 10 minutes left. Can we talk about Chancellorsville at all?
Yes. You're on the Confederate side for that, right?
I am. I'm on the Confederate side, so load the Union map. He was paying attention. Well.
Let's see.
And I have to tell you, I am Commander-in-Chief of the Confederate side. I'm playing as General Lee. And I expected my opponent to be pretty wily, so I know who my opponent is. It's a hooker being played by Tack Hines, and so I figured he was going to do all kinds of stuff to throw me off base, which he did exactly as I expected. But I had some curveballs for him, and I've thrown a few back at him, and now we're going to see how it goes. I think I've tilted the odds in my favor, but I can't be overconfident. And there's a lot of daylight left on day 2 of the game.
Yeah, I'm just showing off some of the pieces that I made. Amelia, one of the women aforementioned, actually made the Union pieces, though, of course, because Marshall's Marshall, and he's actually Lee. I can't show those. But I did make, personally, the Confederate pieces, pretty much all of them. And so I'm just showing off some of them. And basically, with the Confederates, we decided to go with state flags for the unit identifiers, and then corps or division on the top left, corps on the top right, and then brigade in the bottom. And that's kind of the unit designations that we're going for here. And those are what the artillery batteries look like. You can see we got battery, letter. We've lettered all of the batteries. Corps, or whatever unit it's a part of in the top left, then just artillery or artillery reserve, depending, on the top right, and then which battalion it's part of at the bottom. So
how big is this game?
It's over 30 in terms of players. I think I had the count at like 37 or something like that.
Yeah, and how many umpires you got?
2, myself and my college roommate Liam Moffat.
Wow.
And we ran it together. Basically, I took the Union side, so I was responsible for umpiring them, and he took the Confederates. And so he was umpiring them. And so there were some heated arguments over, one or the other. It's kind of funny, because, even though I'm umpiring the Union and he's umpiring the Confederates, the biases are reversed. So I'm umpiring the Union and say, I think the Confederates can get away with that. And Liam's like, no, they're not. Right, and vice versa. So it's funny. It's a good mix. It works.
How do you resolve a dispute between the two of you? Let's say, because this does happen, where you'll have two umpires who will have a dispute. Now, normally the way I resolve it is there is a master or lead umpire, and they have the final say. But if you're working collaboratively with another umpire, or sometimes you just have a strong difference of opinion, and there's no need to upset your partner. How do you work through that when that happens? When you come up to a difference of opinion on how to resolve something?
Yeah, there were a couple times early on where I just put my foot down and said, I'm the lead. But I realized that was not going to work long term. And so we just, we'd sit back and then talk it out for a little bit. Think, okay, what's reasonable here? And then we'd just roll a dice, right? And basically the conversation would be, what are the values on that dice? How do we want to weight it, right? In terms of, if it was like the difference of, oh, this brigade has orders to do this, but it sees somebody and wants to do this smart thing, maybe, right? Then we roll a dice to see if the brigade commander makes that audible call, right? And so that's how we've been resolving it for the majority of the time. Though those disagreements have been happening less and less lately as we've kind of gotten onto the same page about different things. And he's taught me some things, I've taught him some things, right? And so it's really working out. But when it does come to blows, then we sit back, talk it out, and roll a dice.
Let the dice make the determination. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think that's a great idea. Even in my K-22 system in the rulebook, I put some thoughts about that, because that is an important thing when you're umpiring somebody. Even if you're the lead, you still want to take into consideration what your subordinate is telling you and give them some consideration. It's very important that all umpires feel valued and listened to, because they're providing a pretty important experience for everybody. We've got a few more comments and questions here. Otto says, Carter, can you please have Sam Miller come in as a cameo in your documentary? When you're describing his troops' assault, I want to hear, I continue to attack.
Otto, I wish I could show you one of the D-Day states. In fact, I wish I could show you the current one, because you would be laughing your butt off. But also, I wish I could show the people, and I will eventually, what's going on with you, how you, I guess Otto got caught with his pants down. I'll just say
boy.
that.
All right.
He had to pull up his pants, tighten up his belt, and run. That's what happened.
That happens. Gray asks, is this module posted? Are either of these modules available, or are they presently only being shared with the players?
At the moment, they're only being shared with the players. If you are not part of the game and want to run something with your friends or whatever, just let me know. I've got the Umpire module. I can send it to you individually. I just don't want to make them public right now because, I don't want to leak the order of battle for each side to the other, right?
Right.
So,
Justin wants a shout out for the Battle of the Reds. Is this the big Vermilion Civil War you're talking about, Justin? Yes, that big battle's coming up. I proposed we move it back to June 11th, but it might also happen next Saturday. I don't know. I'm not making that decision because Achilles, who is in command, is unavailable next Saturday. But we are having a big sort of battle royale for all the cookies either next Saturday or in, 3 weeks or whatever, for the Red versus Blue Vermilion Civil War. So there's that shout out. Otto says, question for Carter and for Marshall too. What do you like most about umpiring and hosting games, and what do you like the least about it? Oh. Carter, I'll let you field that one first. We might run a few minutes over. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah. So, what I like the most? Well, I'll answer the easy one. What I like the least is I hate having to read through lots of people's orders. Right, even if everyone posted their orders in exactly the right format, and they were like Plato's ideal of the perfect order, right? Even if it was, clear, concise, and interesting, it's still, you spend 2 hours trying to read through those orders. And then obviously, people are imperfect, so the orders aren't always quite clear. And so then you, especially on these maps, right, where because I am something of a local to this neck of the woods here, right? But the map was not made by a local. Some of these roads are misnamed. Like if I look down here, this says the Brook Road, right? It says,
zoom in on it.
Yeah. So this says Brook, right? So this is technically speaking the Brook Road, right? That's what this map maker back in 1867 thought when somebody said, "Oh no, it's the Brock Road," and that's what it's called today. If you look it up on Google Maps, it's the Brock Road. And so somebody's like, "I want to march down the Brook Road," and I go, "What?" Yes. Or somebody will name, all of these farms, right, have been painstakingly, I'm sure, by the guy, named. Like, this is the Brown farm here, or this is the G.R. Stewart farm, or this is the Jones farm. And players will say, "I want to march my column to the Jones farm." And I'm like, "Where is that?" And I have to go looking for like 20 minutes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so it's, things like that get a little annoying, but it's all worth it for. Well, my favorite part is just is really sharing it with people, but also I just love seeing these massive armies move and collide, and seeing the decisions that players make. Because the thing I've learned since starting to umpire Kriegsspiel games is that, when you're studying military history, you're like, "Oh, look at that, the classic blunder," right? "Oh man, if only that guy had not made that stupid decision." And then you start playing and umpiring Kriegsspiel, and you realize how stupid decisions can look smart given certain circumstances.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
And so you come out with a lot more empathy for all of the commanders involved. You think, Joe Hooker, right? How he just completely fumbled the pass in Chancellorsville, right? How he said, even himself, he's like, "I lost confidence in Joe Hooker," right? But then you look at decisions that have been made in this battle of Chancellorsville, and you see the same things happening, and you start to realize how Hooker was actually probably a pretty good general. And he just made a bad call, right? And it was based on imperfect information. Exactly the same as you get in Kriegsspiel. And so I'd say that it humbles you, and I'd say that's probably my favorite part.
Yeah, to answer the question, I think the part that I hate the most is doing a lot of the, like you say, reading through the orders and doing the brain work to crunch things, especially when the orders are unclear and I'm not sure how to interpret them or where they want to go, having to go back at players to get some clarification if it's available, things like that. The other thing is that I do like is kind of creating curveballs and problems for all of the players, even the ones that I like, and pitching those to see how they manage that. Sometimes they perform brilliantly and sometimes they choke entirely. I've got to tell you, though, the players have a nasty habit of breaking the most carefully constructed scenario. It's just like Clausewitz said, no plan of battle survives first contact with the enemy. And I think that's true for Kriegsspiel in general. No Kriegsspiel game designed by an umpire survives first contact with the players.
This is true.
Let's see here. Gray81 asks how to get in contact with you. I think he's interested in your modules.
Yeah, so I'm in the Discord. You can DM me there. Or you can leave a comment on this YouTube video. I'll probably check it in the next few hours. And if you want to talk to me, I'm happy to answer comments. But yeah, the best way to reach me is through Discord. I'm on the main Discord server. You just look for Carter McNish. I'm one of the moderators. I'm usually online. I don't.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that's probably the best way to reach me.
And Justin says June 11th is workable if Achilles can make it. And I think he can, which is why we settled on June 11th, which means June 11th is probably going to be the day of our Royal Rumble for the Vermilion Civil War. And everyone's invited to come play. We're going to need a lot of players for that. Carter, I want to thank you for coming on here and sharing your insight. It was a delightful video, one of the best episodes I think we've run so far. I'll have to figure out how to showcase it, even though we had a technical glitch. But I thank you for being there to save the day. And Carter, any last thoughts or words, comments, anything?
Well, I'll talk with Marshall a little bit about this later, but I do want to stream a bunch of the umpire resolution sessions for D-Day, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to stream those to the IKS so that people can watch them there. But that's just my little shameless plug and peer pressuring Marshall to do that for me. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely A-okay. You have the stream key.
Mm-hmm.
Use it anytime you want. Just let everyone know. Post a big announcement. Don't watch it if you're a player.
Yeah.
And Kriegsspiel players are pretty good. They're probably going to be honorable and shy away from it. You can also set it to private or whatever. Or maybe I might have to do that, but you can go in there, you can record it, and we can post it later when it's no longer such a relevant thing. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple options for it, but yeah, we definitely want to capture those moments and see how it went.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Oh, Robert asks, where are the dolls?
Well, here, let's see if I've got any of my saved objects. Here's a doll.
Oh, no. I don't know if I wanted to see this, Carter. And there you are. I'm going to zoom in because I can't see it. I'm telling you to zoom in, and you've already zoomed in because I'm looking at the Discord. Oh, yeah, the ships. I do have a soft spot for ships. And Damon's little houses. Absolutely outstanding. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you all